Night I decided to destroy my wife's entire world. I was standing in my daughter's old bedroom, holding a prescription bottle with someone else's name on it. Let me back up. My name's Marcus. I'm 41 years old. I work as a software engineer for a defense contractor outside of Richmond, Virginia. Not glamorous, not exciting, but it pays well and it's stable. I married my wife Lauren when we were both 28. She was the kind of woman who made you feel like you'd won something just by being near her. Smart, funny. The way she laughed at my bad jokes made me feel 10 feet tall. We bought a house in the suburbs, had 2 kids, my daughter Lily, now 12, and my son Ethan, 9. For a long time I thought we had the kind of marriage other people envied. I was right about that. Other people did envy it. One person in particular envied it so much he decided to take it for himself. His name was Jake Calloway. He worked at the same marketing firm as Lauren. I'd met him twice. Once at a company barbecue and once when he stopped by the house to drop off some files Lauren had forgotten. Both times he shook my hand, looked me in the eye, called me brother. Both times my wife was standing right there, smiling like nothing was wrong, because his wife thinks he's stupid to notice S&do. I don't know exactly when it started. I've driven myself half crazy trying to pin down the moment. Was it before the barbecue? After? Did it start with a look? A text? A late night at the office? I'll never know. And I've learned to stop caring about the timeline. What matters is what I found and what I did about it. It started with the iPad. Lily had been begging for her own tablet for months. Lauren and I agreed she could use Lauren's old iPad for homework and YouTube. Nothing else. Standard parenting stuff. I set up the parental controls myself, configured the screen time limits. What I didn't realize, what Lauren clearly didn't realize either, was that her iMessage account was still logged in. On a Tuesday evening in March, I was sitting on the couch while Lily did her math homework on the iPad at the kitchen table. She came over to me with this confused look on her face. "Dad, who's Jake? Mom keeps getting messages from him." My stomach didn't drop right away. I assumed it was work stuff. I almost said, "He's someone from Mom's office, don't worry about it," and went back to the TV. But something in Lily's expression stopped me. She looked uncomfortable in a way that 12-year-old girls look uncomfortable when they've seen something they know they shouldn't have. "What kind of messages, sweetheart?" She handed me the iPad without a word. The most recent message was from 40 minutes ago. Lauren was upstairs taking a bath. The message read, "I can still taste you. Thursday can't come soon enough." Lauren's reply, sent from her phone upstairs while I sat 20 feet below her. "I know, I can't stop thinking about it. He's downstairs with the kids. Completely clueless. Completely clueless." I read that phrase 6 times. Each time it hit different. The first time it was shock. The second time, confusion. By the 6th time, it was something cold and quiet that settled into my chest like a stone. I handed the iPad back to Lily. "It's just work stuff, honey. Don't worry about it." She nodded, but I could tell she didn't believe me. Kids are smarter than we give them credit for. That night, after the kids were asleep, Lauren came downstairs in her bathrobe, hair still damp. She kissed me on the forehead and said she was exhausted. "Long day," she said. "Jeff had us in meetings until 5. She curled up next to me on the couch and put her head on my shoulder. I sat there with her warm against my side, smelling her shampoo, and I made a decision. I was not going to confront her. Not yet. Not until I knew everything. I spent the next 3 weeks becoming someone I didn't recognize. During the day I went to work, wrote code, attended stand-ups, ate lunch at my desk. Normal. At night, after Lauren fell asleep, I went through everything. Her email, her texts, her call log, the location history on her phone that she didn't know I could access through our family sharing plan. The picture that emerged was worse than I'd imagined. Lauren and Jake had been seeing each other for 7 months. 7 months of business trips that were actually weekends at a hotel in Virginia Beach. 7 months of late meetings that ended at his apartment in the Fan District. 7 months of my wife lying to my face with a smile while I made dinner for our kids and helped them with homework and read them bedtime stories and fell asleep alone thinking she was working hard to provide for our family. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part came on a Thursday, 3 weeks into my surveillance, when I was going through Lauren's deleted texts. She didn't know you could recover those from an iCloud backup, and I found a conversation thread that made my blood go cold. It was between Lauren and my sister, my younger sister, Rachel, 34 years old, married to a good man named Trevor for just over a year. They were trying to get pregnant. Rachel and I were close, or I thought we were. Sunday dinners, holiday gatherings, the whole thing. She adored my kids. Lily called her Aunt Rach and made her friendship bracelets. The texts between Lauren and Rachel weren't about family. They were about Jake. "He's incredible, isn't he?" Lauren had written. "I feel guilty, but I can't stop," Rachel replied. "Trevor is so sweet, but he doesn't make me feel like Jake does." "I know exactly what you mean." I stared at my phone screen for a long time. The house was silent. Lauren was asleep beside me. Down the hall, my children were dreaming whatever children dream about, and I was learning that the man sleeping with my wife was also sleeping with my sister. The same man. Both of them. At the same time. I got out of bed and went downstairs. I sat in the dark kitchen, and I didn't move for 2 hours. I just sat there breathing while the refrigerator hummed and the clock on the wall ticked, and my entire understanding of my life rearranged itself into something ugly and unrecognizable. Then I started planning. The first thing I did was call a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. I called David Whitmore, a divorce attorney in Richmond who'd handled my coworker's custody case and gotten him full custody plus the house. David was expensive, methodical, and cold. Exactly what I needed. "Document everything," David told me. "Texts, emails, location data, photos if you can get them without breaking the law. Virginia is an at-fault divorce state. Adultery is grounds. If you can prove it, you're in a strong position for custody and asset division. What about recording? Virginia is a one-party consent state for audio. You're the one party. Just make sure you're present for any recording." I documented everything. I created a folder on an encrypted drive at work, not on any device Lauren could access. Screenshots with timestamps. Calendar entries cross-referenced with her location history. Credit card statements showing hotel rooms she'd told me were client dinners. I was systematic about it. I'm an engineer. Systems are what I do. The second thing I did was call Trevor. That was the hardest phone call of my life. Harder than when my dad died. Harder than when my dad died. Harder than anything. Trevor picked up on the third ring, cheerful as always. "Marcus, what's up, man? You guys still coming for dinner Saturday?" I told him I needed to meet him in person, alone, somewhere private. He heard something in my voice because he didn't ask why. He just said, "Okay," in a different tone and suggested a coffee shop near his office the next morning. I didn't sleep that night. We met at 7 a.m. The coffee shop was nearly empty. Trevor was already there, sitting at a corner table, looking worried. He's a high school history teacher. Kind face, wire-rimmed glasses. The sort of guy who coaches JV soccer because he genuinely likes kids. He didn't deserve any of this. I sat down and put my phone on the table between us. "I need to show you something, and I need you to not react until I'm finished." Then I showed him everything. The texts between Lauren and Jake. The texts between Rachel and Lauren about Jake. The location data showing Rachel visiting the same apartment in the fan district on different days than Lauren. Trevor read it all without speaking. When he was done, he took off his glasses and set them on the table. His hands were shaking. He pressed them flat against the surface to make them stop. "How long?" he asked. "Lauren's been with him 7 months that I can tell." "Rachel, I'm not sure. At least 4 months based on the texts." 4 months. "We've been married 14. I know." He was quiet for a long time. Then he looked up at me and said something I'll never forget. "What are we going to do about it? Not what are you going to do? We." Because in that moment, sitting in a half-empty coffee shop with bad fluorescent lighting and the smell of burnt coffee, Trevor and I became something, not friends exactly, something more practical. Allies. We spent the next 6 weeks building our case together. David Whitmore took on Trevor's divorce as well and gave us a package deal. The man had a dark sense of humor. We divided the work. I handled the digital evidence. Trevor, who was more sociable than me, handled the human intelligence. He started paying closer attention to Rachel's schedule, her excuses, her moods. He kept a journal. Dates, times, what she said, where she actually was. We discovered things. Jake had a pattern. He saw Lauren on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the night she had spin class and book club. He saw Rachel on Mondays and Wednesdays, when she supposedly had yoga and dinner with college friends. Weekends he rotated. When Lauren was on a business trip, Rachel told Trevor she was visiting her old college roommate in Charlottesville. When Rachel was with Jake, Lauren was home with me, being the attentive wife, probably out of guilt. They had it choreographed, a whole logistic system of betrayal, and they'd built it together. My wife and my sister had coordinated their schedules so they could share the same man without overlapping. That realization, that they collaborated on this, was somehow worse than the cheating itself. I also hired a private investigator. Her name was Dana, a former state police detective who now worked independently. I wanted photos. Not for emotional ammunition, for court. Dana was good. Within 2 weeks, she had time-stamped photographs of Lauren entering Jake's apartment building, and separate photos of Rachel doing the same thing on different days. She also got photos of Jake himself, coming and going, looking perfectly at ease like a man without a care in the world. Jake Calloway, 36 years old, senior account manager, drove a black BMW he couldn't actually afford, rented that apartment in the Fan District specifically, as far as I could tell, as a secondary location for these affairs. He had his own place in Short Pump where he lived. The Fan apartment was his playhouse. Dana also found something I hadn't expected. Jake had a company laptop that he used on the apartment's Wi-Fi network. Through some investigative work I won't detail, all legal, David assured me. Dana obtained records showing that Jake had been expensing hotel rooms and dinners with Lauren as client entertainment through his company. He was billing his employer for his affair. That would matter later. Through all of this, I kept my face neutral. I went to work. I came home. I made dinner. I helped with homework. I kissed my wife goodnight. She had no idea. Neither did Rachel, who still came to Sunday dinners and played with my kids and hugged me and said, "Love you, big brother," while carrying on with a man who was also in my wife's bed. The hardest part was Lily. She knew something was wrong. She'd seen those messages, and even though I'd told her it was nothing, she watched her mother differently after that. Kids pick up on everything. One night, she came into my home office while I was working late, actually organizing evidence files, and she said, "Dad, are you and Mom okay?" I closed the laptop. "Why do you ask?" "She's on her phone a lot, and she smiles different when she's texting." My 12-year-old daughter had noticed what I'd missed for 7 months. I hugged her and told her everything would be fine. It was the only lie I told during that entire period, and it tore me apart. After 6 weeks of preparation, David told us we had more than enough. "You could file tomorrow and win," he said. "Both of you. The evidence is overwhelming." But I didn't want to just file. I didn't want Lauren and Rachel to get a quiet, dignified exit. I wanted them to face what they'd done in front of the people whose opinions mattered to them most. My mother-in-law's 70th birthday was 3 weeks away. The whole family would be there. Lauren's parents, her brother and his wife, aunts, uncles, cousins, my parents, Trevor. Everyone. Trevor and I planned it down to the minute. The birthday party was at my in-laws' house in Midlothian. Big colonial with a wraparound porch, 2 acres. The whole suburban Virginia dream. About 40 people were there. Lauren was in a great mood. She'd bought her mother an expensive necklace and was soaking up the praise. Rachel was there too, arm in arm with Trevor, playing the happy newlywed. Jake wasn't there, of course. He existed in a separate compartment of their lives, the dirty secret tucked away in a fun district apartment while they performed their roles as wife, sister, daughter. We waited until after dinner. After the cake. After the toasts. I wanted my mother-in-law to have her celebration before the evening took its turn. At around 8 p.m., while everyone was in the living room with coffee, I stood up. Lauren looked at me expectantly, probably thinking I was going to make a toast. "I need to share something with the family," I said, "and I need everyone to listen." The room went quiet, 40 pairs of eyes. I was calm. I'd rehearsed this in my head 100 times. I'd lain awake at night scripting it, revising it, cutting it down to the essential facts. No yelling, no tears, just the truth. 7 months ago, I discovered that Lauren has been having an affair. The silence changed texture. Lauren's face went white. Her mother's hand went to her chest. "The man she's been seeing is named Jake Calloway. He works at her firm. I have photographs, text messages, location data, and hotel receipts documenting the relationship in detail." Lauren started to stand. "Marcus, what are you?" "I'm not finished." My voice was level. "I practiced that too. 4 months ago, I discovered that Jake Calloway is also having an affair with my sister Rachel." The silence broke. My mother made a sound. Rachel, who'd been sitting next to Trevor on the love seat, turned the color of chalk. Trevor didn't move. He just sat there with his hands folded, exactly as we planned. Lauren and Rachel coordinated their schedules to share the same man. They knew about each other. They planned around each other. This was not a coincidence. It was a collaboration. I pulled out a manila envelope I'd kept in my jacket pocket all evening. I set it on the coffee table. "This contains a summary of the evidence. Timestamped text messages, photographs, hotel receipts that Jake billed to his company as business expenses. Our attorney has the complete file." The room erupted. "I won't describe everything that happened next. It was ugly," Lauren cried. Rachel tried to leave and Trevor stood up and quietly said, "We need to talk and we're going to do it here." My father-in-law looked like he'd been punched. My mother sat very still and very straight, with tears running down her face without a sound. Lauren tried the defenses I'd anticipated. She denied it until I showed a photo. She minimized it. It was just a few times, until I showed the 7 months of texts. She blamed me. "You were never home. You never paid attention to me." And I simply said, "That may be true, but you didn't ask for counseling. You didn't ask for a divorce. You chose to lie, and you chose to do it with the same man as my sister." Rachel didn't try to defend herself. She just sat there staring at the floor, while Trevor told the room calmly and clearly that he would be filing for divorce on Monday. "So will I said. The following weeks were brutal but efficient. David Whitmore earned every dollar of his fee. In Virginia, adultery affects spousal support. Specifically, a cheating spouse typically can't receive it. With our evidence, Lauren's case for alimony evaporated. The custody evaluation went strongly in my favor. Lauren's location data showed that on at least a dozen occasions, she'd left the children with Lily effectively in charge, a 12-year-old watching a 9-year-old, while she went to Jake's apartment, sometimes not returning until after midnight. The evaluator noted this as a pattern of negligence. I got primary custody. Lauren got every other weekend and Wednesday evenings. The house was mine. We paid off most of the mortgage with my salary anyway. Trevor's divorce was even more straightforward. 14 months of marriage, no children, no significant shared assets. Rachel didn't contest it. She signed everything and moved back in with my parents temporarily, which created its own kind of punishment, living with the parents of the brother she'd betrayed. Jake Calloway got his share too. The private investigator's findings about the expensed hotel rooms and dinners went to his company's HR department via an anonymous tip. I won't say I sent it. I'll say it arrived. An internal audit confirmed that Jake had fraudulently expensed over $12,000 in personal entertainment as business costs. He was terminated for cause. No severance. No reference. His LinkedIn went dark 3 days later. Without his job, Jake couldn't afford the BMW or the apartment in the Fan District. Last I heard through mutual acquaintances, he'd moved back to his parents' place in Fredericksburg. A 36-year-old man back in his childhood bedroom because he couldn't keep his hands off other men's wives. There's a symmetry to that which satisfies something in me. I'm not proud of that feeling, but I'm honest about it. The aftermath was complicated. It always is. Life doesn't wrap up in a neat bow just because you got justice. Lily had a rough 6 months. She started seeing a therapist, a good one, a woman named Dr. Patterson who specialized in children of divorce. Lily was angry at her mother, and she had every right to be. But I never spoke badly about Lauren in front of the kids. Whatever Lauren had done to me, she was still their mother. I owed my children that restraint. Ethan was too young to fully understand, but old enough to feel the shift. He got quiet for a while, started sleeping with the light on. But kids are resilient in ways adults forget to be, and with consistency and stability, he started coming back to himself. I made sure I was there every morning and every night. I made sure dinner was at the same time. I made sure their lives had a rhythm that didn't depend on anyone but me. My relationship with Rachel is still fractured. She wrote me a letter, 8 pages long, that I read once and put in a drawer. She said she was sorry. She said she didn't know how it happened. She said she'd been in a dark place, and Jake made her feel alive, and she knew it was wrong from the start, and she hated herself for it. I believe all of those things are true. I also believe that believing them doesn't mean I have to forgive her yet. Maybe eventually. Not yet. Trevor and I still talk. We get beers sometimes, usually on Fridays after work. We don't talk about the women much. Mostly we talk about the women much. Mostly we talk about work, sports, normal stuff. But there's an understanding between us that doesn't need words. We went through something together, and we came out the other side. That creates a bond that's hard to explain to people who haven't experienced it. Lauren moved to an apartment in Glen Allen. She's dating someone new, according to Lily, who mentions it carefully, watching my face for a reaction. I give her none. Lauren's life is no longer my concern. She's Lily and Ethan's mother, and that is the full extent of what she is to me now. I started therapy myself about 4 months after the divorce was finalized. I'd been operating on adrenaline and strategy for so long that when it was over, when there were no more moves to make, the emptiness hit me like a truck. My therapist helped me understand that what I'd been doing, the investigation, the planning, the execution, was my way of maintaining control in a situation where I'd felt completely powerless. It worked. It got me what I needed. But it also delayed the grief. The grief came eventually. It always does. I grieved the marriage I thought I had. I grieved the sister I thought I knew. I grieved the version of myself who trusted easily and assumed the best about the people closest to him. That man is gone. The man who replaced him is harder, more cautious, but also more honest. I think that's a fair trade. Lily came home from school a few weeks ago with a card she'd made in art class. Construction paper, glitter glue, the works. On the front, she'd drawn a picture of me and her and Ethan standing in front of our house. Inside, she'd written, in her careful 12-year-old handwriting, "Dad, thank you for always being there. You're the strongest person I know." I put it on the refrigerator right at eye level. Some mornings I stand there with my coffee and read it again. I'm not the man I was 2 years ago. I'm not the man who sat on that couch and believed his wife when she said she was tired from meetings. I'm not the man who shook Jake Calloway's hand and called him a friend. I'm not the man who assumed his sister would never betray him. But I'm here. My kids are here. The house is here. The coffee is hot and the mornings are quiet and the refrigerator hums the same way it always has, steady and reliable. And there's a card from my daughter that reminds me every single day what I fought for and why. That's enough. For now, that's more than enough. If you're watching this and you're going through something similar, here's what I'll tell you. Don't react. Don't confront. Don't give them the satisfaction of your pain until you've turned that pain into a plan. Document everything. Get a lawyer. Get someone you trust in your corner. And when you're ready, when the evidence is airtight and the strategy is sound and there's no room for them to wiggle out, then you strike. Not in anger. In precision. They chose to lie. You choose to be ready. Thanks for listening to my story. If this helped you in any way, hit that like button. If you've been through something like this and want to share, drop it in the comments. And subscribe to Mystic Snail for more stories like this one. I read every single comment. I'll see you in the next one.